Welcome to the Yoga Voice, a podcast by Cityoga, School of Yoga and Health. Our guests discuss how the contemporary practice of this ancient art transforms the lives of individuals and communities in the Midwest and beyond. Cityoga has been a center for the practice of yoga and yoga teacher training since opening in 2002. Join us as we explore how yoga inspires and transforms.
Dave Sims here at the Yoga Voice, recording at Cityoga School of Yoga and Health in Indianapolis. Today, we're going to speak with a yoga therapist, yoga teacher, somatic experiencing practitioner, founder of Yoga of 12-Step Recovery, known as Y12SR, and she founded the very studio we're at in 2002, Cityoga. I'm proud to welcome Nikki Myers to the Yoga Voice. Great to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be back here at Cityoga.
Yes. Well, I always like to start off with, tell us what inspires you today.
Wow. I am inspired by healing. I am without question inspired by that. And I'm getting to see so much. Even in the chaos and the confusion and the kind of insanity that's going on in the United States, I know and trust that underneath that all of this is coming up for healing. And so I see some people mobilized around healing in a way that I haven't seen in a long time. And that inspires me.
Awesome. Yes, healing. Much needed now, and very, it sounds like you're right on target with this bubbling up to the surface and well, tell us a little bit about your story. So what you were like, what happened with your yoga journey, and where you're at today. All
right. I always love to do this with a little bit of introduction. Right. And I usually say, I don't care if I was speaking. I do a lot of speaking. So I don't care if I'm speaking at, in a church basement or at Harvard Medical School. I always introduce myself the same way. And I'm Nikki. I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a codependent. I'm the survivor of both childhood and adult sexual trauma. I'm a love addict. I'm a recovering debtor spender. And the big 3-letter word, and I love to capitalize it, A-N-D, and I am a yoga therapist. I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner. I'm the founder of Cityoga, yay! And the founder of an organization called Y12SR, which is the Yoga of 12-Step Recovery. And I am the mother of 2 living and 1 deceased child. I'm the grandmother of 5, and I'm actually the great-grandmother of 3 beautiful great-grandchildren. And I love saying all that in the same sentence. What I've discovered as a part of this journey is that if I praise and exalt one side, and then I ignore, deny, or pretend that the other side is not there, make that bad, awful, and wrong. What I do is create a split inside of me. And that split is the antithesis of yoga, right? There's this internal war going on, this fight going on, which again, that split is the antithesis of yoga. Yoga's integration, its wholeness, it's union. So a lot of the journey has been in how to integrate all parts of myself. And there's this phrase that I know and have learned from both my healing process in the 12-step program and in yoga, is that while all of those things inform my walk in the world, none of them define me. I'm so much more than all of those things. So it's been this process through yoga and the 12-step program for healing for me.
Yes. So what what defines you today?
You know what? I think I'm undefined today, or continuing to add on to or subtract, really, I think it's more subtraction. I've been doing a lot of study in Advaita Vedanta and a lot of study in non-dualism. And part of that study are the words neti, neti, not this, not this, not this. So rather than the addition of anything, this feels more like a job of subtraction and is getting back to the wholeness that, we come into this plane of existence with anyway. It's so funny when I think about that. I saw my great granddaughter, 2 hours after she was born. Of course, we're from Indiana, so her name is Peyton.
That's great. Go Colts. Yeah.
So I've got this picture of me holding Peyton when she was 2 hours old. And I'm looking in this beautiful baby's eyes. And all I can think of is this is wholeness. This is wholeness. This was a little piece of wholeness extracted from wholeness, right? And then watching her grow up, just becoming socialized and being a part of, and you get told, in her case, girls do this, boys do that. And, you are this, you're not that, and all those kinds of things. So we put all this garbage on top, right? And it continually happens and happens and happens. And now for me, the job is stripping away all that craziness and bullshit that I put on top.
Yeah.
Right. To get back to the original wholeness that I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's removing separation.
Exactly.
Right. And that's right. And I believe that we do come into this world whole, and that those layers of separation start young.
Yes.
And then our various paths and trauma and zip code we're born into. I mean, all these things just
that's right.
create varying degrees of that.
That's right.
So that's that's very powerful. So you've done your training, started really yoga therapy with Gary.
Yeah.
And how has that evolved in the work that you've been able to do in the world?
It's been amazing. It really has been amazing. That work with Gary, so that's from the Vini Yoga Institute with Gary Kraftso. And that has been some of the most important, valuable, and useful work that I feel like I've ever done. And Gary is not a 12-stepper, or because I came into this through the whole role of addiction, right? So when I got to yoga and yoga therapy, and I'm studying this stuff, I'm coming at it through the lens of my experience. And so, I'm working with Gary, and he's not really had anything to do with 12 steps or addiction or anything like that. But it was so easy for me, given the way the teachings were transmitted, for me to do what I call connect the dots between all of this stuff and addiction healing. So between that yoga therapy work with Gary and the somatic experiencing work with Peter Levine, what we do is put yoga philosophy and practices, the 12-step program, trauma healing, right? And neurobiology, all the things we're learning about, particularly addiction in the brain. Mm-hmm. And we put those together in coursework in order to support other people in going out in the world and doing work, in this crisis that we're facing now in the world of addiction.
Yes. Yes, that indeed is a crisis. And you mentioned neurobiology. What studies are interesting you right now?
Oh my God. Field? All the things that we found out as far as how addiction has affected the brain. There's so much work that I really love. I'm kind of not the best phrasing for this, but I'm a kind of a junkie for that stuff, right?
I thought so, yes.
I really am. So, there's just any study that I can possibly find to research on that. I'm into it. I'm all the way into it.
Well, it seems I read something recently about how our and this ties into samskaras and habits of the mind and all these things that yoga helps us undo or repattern, and meditation and mindful breath and all that. They talked about a deeper level of neuroplasticity where we've known for a while now that our brains can grow and change, and we can learn new things and new habits. And this study talked about being able to undo really foundational patterns that developed in really developmental years, maybe 7 to 10, like starting school, going through adolescence, and these important developmental times of life. Can you speak to that at all?
I love a lot of the work. Goodness, I just lost her name. Kelly McGonigal.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. I love a lot of the work and I've met her and actually spoken with her on several occasions actually. But I love the work that she's been doing relative to meditation in particular, and how it affects different levels, even at stress and things like that. And so some of the deeper work that's involved with that, I really love her work and appreciate what she's doing. We approach this thing from one of the teachings that we get really deep into, of course, in the addiction recovery work, is this whole thing around samskaras, right? And those are habits and patterns and conditioning and things like that. And talking about really how samskaras in and of themselves aren't good or bad or right or wrong, that they live beyond the paradigm of binary, right? Good, bad, right, wrong, any of that kind of stuff. They live, that is something that's beyond binary. And actually, really the cause and the cure are the same thing. I'm going to look to find habits and patterns that support what I say is most important to me, so that I can no longer be involved with the habits and patterns that no longer serve what I said was most important to me. And not to judge them good or bad or right or wrong, because at one point in time, they did serve, right? It served a particular purpose.
Survival. Even,
right. But it no longer serves what I say is most important to me. And when you think about it, this is exactly what we're talking about relative to neural pathways. I want to create new neural pathways through habits and patterns that serve what's most important to me, so that I'm no longer falling down the habits and patterns which no longer serve what I say is most important to me. And I'm sure that after some time, maybe the habits and patterns, that old sleuth, goes away. Maybe it does. I will often say, I don't want to be too overly concerned about that. I just want to keep going down the pathway that serves what I say is most important to me. Usually I'll say in the training, maybe particularly for someone who is enlightened, whatever the hell that is. I don't even know what the hell that is, right? But maybe for someone who's enlightened, they no longer have to be vigilant or concerned with their old habits and patterns. But I know the Yoga Sutras talk about two kinds of yogis. I think this is Yoga Sutra 119. And it talks about the extraordinary yogi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the extraordinary yogi, I always think of as someone like